Hey everyone, this is your Ravens Voice host, Zealous here to drop some news about the upcoming release, Armored Core Verdict Day on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Brand new highlights for this title include new story and missions, over 100 new parts including weapon arms and shields, a total of 56 maps to battle on, revamped parts with a renewed tuning and upgrading system, a setting for players to take in-game screenshots of all the action, a revamped conquest system now called World Mode, a system that will allow players and teams to earn special medals for their efforts, as well as a function for operators to control AI units. Verdict Day launches September 24th for the US and September 27th in Europe. Keep your bookmarks locked on facebook.com/armoredcore for more information and updates.
Well, we're moving on up to the east side, to a deluxe apartment in the sky. Moving on up.
Hey everybody, I'm back, and you are all back for another great episode here. Well, in episode anyways of the Ravens Voice. Of course, this is Tearsin, and the one who has not missed the show yet is Zealous.
Hey people.
Okay, here's the thing. You've seen no postings for this show this week. We don't really have a topic for this week. This is going to be our first throwaway show, hence the change in the theme for this week. That was not a mistake. We're just having a little fun this week. We're just gonna, there are things we're gonna talk about. We do have a couple. We have one big announcement, and we will be the first to be introducing new events to happen in a few weeks. But for the most part, we're just gonna have some fun this week. No specific topic. We're just gonna talk about some things that have happened. I'm gonna get a chance to comment on a couple things that happened a couple weeks ago, because I obviously didn't get a chance to. I didn't get a chance to comment on that last week because, these guys have been covering for me. They've been saying that I've been moving, and the truth of it is I'm homeless.
You've been thrown out. I mean,
the wife kicked me out.
So what's evicted life been like for you?
Oh, dude, it was awesome today. I've broken into somebody's house, and that's how I'm recording this right now. So that's pretty cool. I got a roof over my head tonight. No, I did move. What sucks is that the internet wasn't, no internet here. I'm living on site for a job that I'm working for. I work in real estate, and so I came here for a little bit to help this property out for the company that I work for. This is how I make my money besides doing freelance work when I can in the digital arts realm. But this property this property sucks, and I'm moving again here very soon in about a week. So that kind of sucks that I had to go through all that just to get here and just to find out I'll be moved again so soon. But they didn't even have internet here. So that actually was the first project I got on when I got here, was to get the internet going, and it still took about a week. My hands are kind of tied on some of that, but it sucked. I missed the show last week, but I'm here, so don't worry, guys. I'm back, and I know I'm your favorite thing about the show. So, especially after last, I listened to last week's show. Listen to a couple nerds talk about a tournament. God,
downright abysmal, isn't it? Please, you wish you were there.
No, but actually last week it was kind of cool. Getting to listen to the show last week from an outside perspective, and again, I've thanked them personally, and thank you to Cheng for filling in for me last week, especially in such short notice, because it really was a day-to-day thing as to whether the internet would be up here or not for me to record this show, and we looked at other options. Possibly to make it happen, and it just wasn't going to happen. So, you guys did an awesome job covering the TEM1 event. Made me jealous that I wasn't there. You know how I love competitions.
Oh, yeah.
Even if I don't do well in them. So I do enjoy them. And when it comes to Armored Core 5, I definitely have not done all that well. I can't hide it anymore. People have discovered that I am in fact a noob. And, I'm not even going to try to hide it.
What do you got here? Like a coming out party or something?
Okay, well, no. In all honesty, because a couple of us have come out and said and this will be a good segue into the topic of our testing, our very controversial comments and testing on pile drivers. A couple people did come out and question how well we tested this, and a couple people have said that we don't understand the game, which is fine. People are entitled to their opinion, even if they're wrong.
It's funny. Some of this comes down to perception, in a sense of how something's used. Now, again, there's obviously an issue if we're bringing up the mechanics of a discussion, and if we're bringing up something that's just strictly like erroneous and just factually off. You know what? Hey, great. Glad we can have discussions over these kind of things, that we have topics and threads dedicated to it. We had a post over at ACL. It just exploded, over this, and just really, really grew, and had a great discussion about it. But again, some things I think can kind of get muddled in a gray area, and it can seem as though one perspective comes off, whereas there's a different aspect we might be actually discussing about said part. But it is a great reminder of how carefully these kinds of topics should be framed and brought into context.
In this topic, we do need to apologize. One of the things that we had cited as part of what makes the weapon, I guess we didn't actually test it ourselves, but I didn't. But we didn't actually test it at that time. But Cleric had said that he had actually, and he said it with a lot of conviction, that part of what he really didn't like about pile drivers was that the hitbox on them, which in general I think is an issue, but it was broken to the point where he had been hit through a wall in the game with a pile driver, and we took it for its word. We had no reason not to. Cleric understands this game very well. He probably, out of all the people that I know well that play the game Cleric on it, has a strong understanding of Armored Core 5, and so we took it at face value. I don't think he lied to us. But I think it seems as though, and some people even tested that it was just a mistake on that part.
Yeah.
So it definitely an apology to going out for just taking that at face value, not testing that particular aspect on its own.
Definitely. When we talk about face value, too, another thing that's been brought up, obviously, this is something that's normally a lag glitch, okay, that you can have happen, or that can occur. In fact, that was one of the questions posited. One of the notes posited to Cleric about how this would actually occur, and that if anything, you could have a really bad lag spike, or you could experience something that looks like, oh crap, this totally breaks this mechanic, but it's not the case in reality.
Now, that being said, I'm going to double down on everything else that we talked about.
Yep.
I do think that the damage on those weapons, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And talking about this between us, I know that I believe we agreed that the perception of them being having too much damage is just because they're a CE weapon, and generally speaking, CE is the least built up defense for most players. And again, that is generalizing, but I think that's why they get that perception. At the same time, I think in keeping pile drivers what they've always have been, they've always done an immense amount of damage, and I think they almost always one shot. And I'm not just talking about AC5; I'm talking about since pile drivers have been around. And I think in that regard, it works well to continue that tradition of that kind of weapon. But
let's let's note that real quick about the second note on defenses. I actually think there are plenty of players that would point to holes in their TE defense first, but I think it's key to talk about piles and how long they've been around. This reminds me of something Zio4 brought up in the very same thread about how we look at a part now compared to a vintage part, and arguably one of the closest things we've had to piles in the past was the parry blade. Now, are piles parry blades? No. Are parry blades piles? Obviously not. These are weapons from completely different timelines. They have different mechanics. There are clear, stark differences, but in a way, you can see the evolution, or at least the style of striking and attacking with these weapons, where some of the similarities are, right? So
I think they're intentionally similar.
Definitely. You've seen this growth with a number of all types of different categories, over AC's history as it's gone about. But the interesting thing here we have about piles, as opposed to, let's say, parry blades of the past, besides the hitboxes that we discussed, is parries. If you got nailed by a parry blade, now it wasn't always a kill. In fact, I don't think I've seen a one-hit kill from a parry. It would hurt a lot, and you would go into a burn. You'd have pretty much a guaranteed overheat from it. But I think that's something interesting to be said about 5. In the past, we could never equip 2 at once and immediately, use both weapons, your left and right, simultaneously into a massive hit as you can in 5, and that could be a different factor as well.
You don't remember getting one-shotted by parry blades a lot?
Nope.
Jeez, I don't. We had different experiences.
We did, and but this highlights something key. It's a lot of these things, are about perception and what we've encountered in AC. What we've played and what we've experienced, online, in person, etc. Our experiences will not mirror, and they will not be the same always. And in a way, I think this is something that really provides us a great discussion platform for this stuff. So.
Well, and I think going back to the testing that we did that night, in particular you and Clerk, on the damage of the parry, or not the parry blades, but in this case the pile drivers versus defenses, and you guys did very raw testing on that. You did very down to the nuts and bolts testing on this weapon. You tested the defenses, you tested the damage. We discussed some of the variables that could happen from that, and you did test some of those as well. But we wanted to get some definitive numbers. And I thought it was solid raw testing, and I stand by the conclusion of the damage is not overpowered.
And that's the interesting part about this. The testing itself and a lot of the raw numbers weren't the issues that a lot of people tended to bring up about this. It was the way this part was conveyed, and the way the discussion of the part was conveyed as an out of control, overpowered weapon. And I think that's where the debate really centered and what was talked about, and that was, you talk from every side. Where they shine, where they don't, and how much they actually take to use, how you truly have to position, and how they aren't just a one-click win. How you really have to position yourself carefully, and especially if you're going to catch a more mobile opponent. So many variables into it, but.
It's funny that you lead into that too, because I still honestly think that their hit range is too much. I think that is a bit exaggerated.
If we're comparing the two, and I know there's people out there that have an issue with you can't compare parries and piles. Okay, again, yes, they are different parts, but if we look at this type of weapon to what we've had in the past of AC compared to now, it is a larger box. It's difficult to get around that, even if it is a glancing hit, even if you don't have the full amount of damage on a dead-on poke, contact. It's still a larger surface area to connect, and that's something we really haven't experienced with these weapons before.
Well, and don't get me wrong. I don't want anyone to get me wrong. My main AC has a pile on it. The fact that I think it's an exaggerated hit range, I still use it. It's a damn good weapon, and it's great in a couple key situations to have one on you.
It is.
It is a great equalizer against certain other builds. I run a middleweight biped, so sometimes I need something like a pile driver to balance out the scenario that I find myself in against other ACs, in particular tanks. It's kind of funny that in this topic in general, because I think it was the week before or 2 weeks before. No, I think it was the week before we talked about weapon bans, and we talked about how heated these discussions can get. And we certainly weren't calling for that at all. In fact, I think the conclusion that we said was, yeah, it's a little OP, but it's not for the reason that it was brought up to us. But it's kind of funny. There were some heated comments about this. Some people did get pretty upset about this topic overall. And, just kind of reflect on this, on the topics overall. People really care. And that's something that we were talking about in that show about weapon bans, especially in the back several years ago with the tournament land scene. Don't get us wrong. We were simply just talking about it. Did we give a definitive conclusion that we came up with? Yes, but I guess this kind of segues into something else that we wanted to talk about. We're just a couple guys talking on a podcast, guys. Some people, a couple of people have, I think, maybe taken the show, or at least us, a little, maybe I don't know, maybe a little too seriously. I don't know. But the fact that we comment on something, I mean, if you find validity in what we're saying, great. But obviously, those are our opinions, which sometimes differ and sometimes don't. But they're ours. But they're just ours.
And sometimes, you'll have opinions, within those opinions, obviously, again, goes back to our experiences, the way we've, played AC and what we perceive out of those things. They won't always be the same, but regardless of where we stand, the show comes down to us trying to help give this community more of a voice. We also are aware of something else that's brought up. I think one issue some people have is saying, well, note what's discussed and note what's brought up, because there is a community reflection in this regard, that the topics and that debates we bring up can not only have an impact, okay, but that they can help form the basis of a discussion for something. I think what some players worry about is an improper foundation being formed for the discussion of those things. Some are concerned about topics being approached from the wrong angle, or just including too few perspectives.
Well, again, I think that kind of goes a little bit more into what you were talking about as opinion, but no, I can understand. There's definitely a factual basis that should be there, and I think on this topic we weren't off on that. Again, we did test out several variations of how damage could be applied. When you're stunned and coming in with a charge, or with a certain amount of speed behind you and whatnot. But for the most part, this was based on our research on it was based on solid, raw data, taking it down to the bare bones and just looking at several variations, but just very raw information. And when you start adding on things to that equation, things can that's the more you add into that, the muddier it can get. But it just I don't know. I get what you're saying, but and I can appreciate that anybody who gives us any validity because we're doing this show or whatever. But really, I mean, we have been around for a long time. We both were gone for a few years too. But we do have history in this community, and that is always appreciated, that people respect and remember that. But when we get a new AC series, especially it's 5, and there hasn't been any expansions or anything, and there hasn't been out for a hell of a long time.
Right.
In comparison to like the AC3 games in the various 10,000 expansions that came out for that. Yes, I know there was a reset in there too, but it's the same freaking thing. But we all know it basically was. But it's, again, we're just a couple guys that play Armored Core. We really like Armored Core. We really like the community that goes with it, which is why we do this show. We do this show because a show like this needed to be out there. We both thought that a show like this needed to be out there, and it would be fun. And now, to that end, I love the fact that some strong, heated discussions came out of that episode that we did in a couple different ways. Obviously, the conversation about the piles, but as well as a couple comments that we made on an event that's going to be happening here in a couple weeks. Now, I've been told to be nice, so I'll be nice, but I don't want to be nice about it, but I will. I'm not going to say much on that topic, on that event, other than we were nice before we commented on it at all. We waited until when we record the show to see. In fact, we had even suggested in emails to that person that maybe you need to put more details up about this event. And we waited until showtime before we were going to even comment on it, and nothing was changed. So, but
Yeah, we've made the plug for it. We've covered the ground that we wanted to with it, and it's, hey, by all means, it's something to still keep an eye out for. Speaking of events, though, and I think we're going to get into this more after our midway segment. There is a first that we're going to announce. At least we're going to be the first to announce this, I believe.
Yeah. We're gonna announce a new event. The first to do it is after we come back from break. We're gonna take a break here in a little bit here. Actually, I want to go back to TEM1 though.
Yeah.
Listening to the show, listening to the show about that, really in talking about tournament, it was an actual tournament. It wasn't an exhibition like the last event that the U.S. has had.
Right.
It was an actual tournament. It was a double elimination, which I love. Those of you who went to the ACMM events knows that I loves me some double elimination. That was always the big event. That was the big one at the ACMM. It was the double elimination event. And I think I did some team events like that too. I think I tried one or two team events like that as well.
Team double, same thing happened at ACMA.
Which are always a lot easier to do because there's obviously there's the people are pretty much your participants are cut in half because they're teaming up. So it's a bit easier to handle. Good Lord, that reminds me of the double elimination at ACMM 2. Good God, that was a beast.
It was a long day.
That was
a long day.
So many. It was great, and I think everybody was happy to participate in such a big Armored Core event. There was a lot of meat on that tournament, but God, those are a beast to handle. And but listen, like I was saying, listening to TEM1 and what you guys were talking about really just gave me that feel back in those days, and it's really cool to see that something like that could happen again.
One of the neatest things that popped up, it really brought back a lot of nostalgia for me, was seeing the bracket setup. And I believe there's that section Cheng and I talked about the 2-0 sweeps, the 2-1s, when the pace of the battle started to change, what were some of the factors for the early wins, the middle of the tournament wins and everything. And I instantly thought back to those huge boards, or the big pieces of poster board or paper we'd have to keep track of the bracket. And it's great that you can have everything compiled in a neat system. Today, and just to not just keep track of the brackets, but the results, but even the log. So if you want to see the exact specifics of like who connected or who disconnected when, there's no discrepancy over it. It's something super important. As tournaments go more online, right, rather than LAN or in person. There's just slightly different factors that you have to account for, and different things to keep track of. But like you're pointing at, this whole feel. The event, especially an event completely centered around the EU community, and the way they are not only able to pull things off, I dare say without a hitch, but to have a ban list that people really didn't raise issues about, not have discrepancies with designs, to get the videos and everything up from it. That's the great part. That's really the great part, and especially the videos thing, because those don't always get out, do they?
No, screw you. Not a single one of them. I'm gonna come over where you live with those ACMM tapes, and I'm gonna just pull the tape right in your front yard.
You've been threatening to destroy them, for the longest. We've had, these things have been held at gunpoint. It seems like forever, but
I'm gonna start with the ones that you're in.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks. Oh, Zealous, look, you're winning in this one. There you go.
Yeah, you would. Oh man, but yeah, from TEM1 too, it looks like a great setup for another potential event. Hopefully, this will go down for Verdict Day too. I think the grounds for it are there. I don't know if it'll be South Q helping Cheng run this again. Hopefully, you'll have more of a team or a staff, or ideally, others trying to push an event like this and maybe going in the forums to plug it. But,
you know me, man. I've always, whatever I have going on in front of me, and when I'm doing in front of other people, I've usually got about half a dozen other things going on in the back of my brain. So
wheels are turning with it.
There might have already been discussion about putting on something in the future. Me coming out of retirement as far as being an event holder. It was cool to hear that. Especially for a couple reasons. Obviously because it was a tournament, but also because we're this late into Armored Core 5. We're literally
Good highlight.
Yeah, you could count the days until verdict day now, and yeah, we're about a month out now. So that's pretty cool that the interest is still there, and they got a lot of people. And now, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm probably wrong. You probably will have to correct me.
Okay.
So, but I mean, wasn't besides things on the Xbox side, we're talking about the PS3 because this was
Right.
a PS3 event. It was my understanding that overall the European community for Armored Core, at least as far as playing, regularly playing the Conquest and online, and I'd heard that it was all but done.
That things have been kind of empty. This is one of those areas that I don't feel as, as qualified to speak on because, like I mentioned last show, I have not played on EU servers myself. I have experience with NA and JP side, but I do want to point directly to a post we had in response to last week's show by System, who actually basically confirming what you're saying. I had put a line out there, an invitation, if you will, for some of the EU players to talk about their experiences in matchmaking or just what it's been like, finding matches, conquest, whatever it is, and he pretty much confirmed it. I'm not going to go over the whole post, but he was saying that he found the server practically dead for most of his time there, and he said, hey, if you actually wanted a match, that you had to go on Skype and PSN chats to find someone who was actually alive. So it came down to I don't know, maybe finding some friends to connect with, or hopefully a few stable members, to connect with and play. And he said this extended into Conquest too. He said he'd go to, you'd always have to like request territory matches, and even within that, he found a ton of questionable teams, who never kept to the wheel attack, then you defend attack, or or they just DC and go offline, all kinds of crazy stuff. So
I don't blame anyone for not playing Conquest. We've talked.
we've been over that.
No, we don't even need to talk about Conquest. Everybody knows Conquest is a very broken system. I mean, when they're even going to completely revamp it in the next game, which is, yes, it's a restart, but it's basically an expansion. You can take your data, throw it in the next one. Then it's them admitting, yeah, this kind of sucked. So we're going to completely redo it. So, yeah, so no, that was cool. I mean, there wasn't a lot of time for this event. There was only a few weeks. And I think he said, how many people was it? 17, 19?
For participants, actual competitors,
Yeah.
18. 18, I believe.
18. Well, there you go.
Yeah, somewhere in between. Dun-dun-dun-dun.
Yeah, so right in the middle there. So I mean, that's pretty good for only a few weeks. I mean that's a good turnout. So I'm happy to hear that, and completely jealous that the European side got a tournament. The tournaments over here for AC5 on the NA side, I participated in one, and that was I think it was within like 6 months after AC5 came out. I didn't do very well, but then again, I think I took on the guy who went to the finals, so no one's going to do well against him. Someone's got to fight him. Someone has to take on that guy in the first round, and it was me. So
Someone has to fight him. Hey, but by all means, who knows? It might not have been the guy in the finals. Careful
Sure.
covering that. Careful.
well, people could. It's not hard to beat me in AC5.
No, I was hoping you were going to touch on that. That very event was one that I didn't get a chance to attend. But I'd heard about it, and I know one thing that caught my ear about it was AC5 tournament. We talked a lot about this. How was the tournament scene going to adapt for the PS3 and the Xbox generation? For Armored Core. Obviously, we're absent of LAN events at this point, and while
They're not even possible.
they're not possible,
You can try to. Well, with AC5, it's literally not possible with the way that the game interacts with other PS3s. But with the split consoles and all that, I mean, it's logistically almost impossible to really get one together. I'm sorry, you were saying.
No. It's just a real murky area, to get into. So when you see those terms around like online tournament, I'm always immediately intrigued to see, how these things come together and how well they'll pull off. One thing I'd like to hear about for those of you who've had some experience with either AC4 or AC4FA online events. If you want to send in and talk a bit about those, that'd be great to hear. I think just alone from what we've seen in TEM1 and the event you highlighted, Tearsin, there's definitely been some stair steps and some good evolution as far as organization goes, for hosting these things and having them come together, and it's shown it can be done, obviously. I mean, you got a community behind it, you've got the effort being pushed, and that's fantastic. You've got the right foundations for it. But I'm curious myself, as a player who did not participate in these during the AC4 and FA era, to see how these were pulled off, or how well
So
they
I
came
mean,
together.
there was the one I attended, and Cheng ran. Well, Cheng has ran pretty much every major event for Armored Core 5. But then there was the second one that he ran, and I know that one didn't even get finished. I guess I'm not quite sure. I don't quite remember what the details on that. If somebody wants to email or post what happened there, I forget. And Chang's told me a couple times, but I forget. But the event didn't even get on. I guess it just didn't go all that well to begin with. But the first one was kind of fun for what it was. I was only there for one round, but but I mean, when you do double elimination, that's obviously a lot better too. That's going to grab people's attention. Like, okay, I got another chance. And
Right.
very different rules at both of those though. The tournaments that Cheng had ran that I attended, you had a restricted build. I don't think anything was banned, and
Free range then.
yeah, and but there wasn't any rules as far as, and this I didn't understand, and I think I commented on this at not last week's, but the week before. There's some very odd rules that were at TEM1, most of which is the rule to keep, basically you couldn't run out the clock and win that way. I get that, I really do, and in fact, I'm not even going to argue about it much, other than I think that really steps on what is, whether you like it or not, it is a viable strategy in this game. As long as there's been versus, there's been the option to run down the clock, and that is a viable option. So I mean, again, I'm not a guy that does that, but
Right.
not a big fan of that.
Right. I'm sure you've watched clocks ran down plenty of times. From the events you've gone through. I know I've had a chance to see him firsthand, even in Bladen. It's funny sometimes, even when you throw in a 3-minute stipulation or a 2-minute. By all means, some people are just looking for the lead and looking to maintain that and hold it and run it. And this isn't just limited to Armored Core. I tend to reference fighting games a lot, but because I think they're just a fantastic competitive platform. Just recently in the Evo Championships from Marvel vs. Capcom 3, it was super common if time was running down, just to hold that lead or just to chip just enough life off your opponent and just keep super jumping or holding the air with your flight and just hold that lead. And it highlights how some of these matches, come down to the win. And again, obviously not everyone's going to agree with that. To say, I would prefer to have, just a straight battle and make things decisive. We'll decide it there, but
There's something to be said. I think there's a lot to be said for that, and that's how I prefer things.
right.
But I mean, the game is balanced how it's balanced, and I think that at least in the developer's mind, is not something that they overlook when it comes to balancing the versus aspect of Armored Core, which really is what the game is built on. Running out the clock, building a high, what do they call them, fortress quads and such, and tanks, and that's in there. And again, I would have participated. I would have never ran an event that had a rule like that. I would have participated in it just for the fun of playing in it.
Right.
But, and again, I never used that strategy myself, but I just don't like the fact that it was taken away from people.
That was right. And it's I know a question I had specifically posted to Cheng about that. Besides the bans, okay, like the overweapon bans and whatnot. Were there any other complaints about the rulings or how things were listed? And I was kind of surprised, happily surprised, to see if there was some real synchronous thought on that, right? Like, apparently, that's how everybody wanted it. Like no one disagreed with that notion. Usually, you have somewhat of an outspoken crowd and something.
I
like
think
that.
they noted that a couple of weeks ago. Spoke about it, was that it's nothing. It's not rules I would have put up there, but apparently, at least in the European community,
Right.
That's the rules was something that a lot of them really wanted to see happen in their next event. Fair enough. I'm just commenting on it overall. That's what we do here. We're talking about stuff, so I'm just talking about it.
But
and like you said, you asked Cheng, and it's like, no, nobody complained. And I do remember seeing people saying in various posts that they're glad to see that rule is in there.
right, one thing that's kind of neat about all this, and we were just talking a little bit earlier about the activity of the EU community and who's available or who's available to play and how difficult matches were to find sometimes. I'm kind of wondering how this base formed, okay, and this perception of timing in events and like how battles should be ideally fought, right?
Right.
Heck, it very well could be, your core players that you still have on and who really want to push these kind of events. Obviously they become the main voice on it, and they're going to start to shape the kind of content they want to see. But it's interesting. You look at EU side, which is from the way I understand it, one of the blankest sides in terms of just servers, and the amount of players available, and you still have a formation of rules coming out of that. How the community perceives that's kind of neat.
It bewilders me a little bit. And again, I'm not saying that negatively. I'm just basically backing up what you're saying. Is like a community that has not seen a lot of activity has some very specific notions of how they thought that should go. And again, not my cup of tea. I would never have those rules in an event that I would hold. But again, everybody wanted it, so I guess that's just me on my side of the fence, and that's them on their side of the fence of it. So, at the end of the day, everybody had fun, and so that's what matters. And as far as we know, nobody complained about those rules. So, more power to them.
Sometimes the world looks perfect, nothing to rearrange. Sometimes you just get a feeling like you need some kind of change. No matter what the odds are this time, nothing's gonna stand in my way. This flame in my heart is like a long lost friend, gives every dark street a light at the end. Standing tall on the wings of my dream, rise and fall on the wings of my dream.
And hey, welcome back, everyone. This will be our second segment, this podcast. Again, we've got a couple of notes and a couple of plugs we wanted to make, but I think Tearsin had some specifics he wanted to jump into right off the bat here, so I just like to pass the mic and delve right into that.
You can. I no longer answer to Tearsin. You can refer to me as Belky.
And, that has a ring to it, Belky. No,
I hope you guys are liking our. This is our throwaway show, so we're having a little bit of fun with the theme this week. So I hope you guys are getting a crack out of that. A couple things we're gonna announce. I think we said at the beginning of the show we're the first to announce what I think will be the last event for Armored Core 5 that will be hosted. I mean, someone else can, but as far as I know, it's going to be the last one. I'm going to announce that in a little bit. I talked about this a little bit in the first part of the show, and I just wanted to, I guess, I just feel I didn't beat the horse to dust yet on it. I commented a little bit about, like I said, for Zealous and I, we're just a couple guys doing a podcast. We were doing this because we feel the community could really enjoy an element like this. But at the same time, we called this the Ravens Voice. That's very specific to us. We love it when you guys email in, when you have questions, when you want us to look at a certain topic, or if you want to comment. I mean, honestly, I know, like I said before, we got a couple haters, and I love my haters. Send me an email. Tell me about how much you think we suck. But no, if you want to, go ahead. But in all seriousness, I mean, we love to hear what you guys want to say. A lot of what we want to do with this show is talk about other people's opinions, and not just ours. We're very opinionated, at least I am, and I'll talk about my opinion all day. But we want to hear what you guys have to say about things too, which is why I think we're both pretty happy that the topic of the piles and everything, and why that sparked so much controversy, or at least just so much discussion and debate on it. I mean, we both think that's
And
awesome.
that shows the dynamic here. I think we weigh in on these topics in different ways. And I think to some, at least, like the perception of how those things are weighed about. Yeah, it may strike a chord. It'll rub some people the wrong way. Some may say a thumbs up to it, but hey, that's what it's all about. In fact, I'm glad we have that contrast.
Right, right. Yeah, no, yeah, and I know there are some people out there that do think that I am, or at least both of us. I know Zealous isn't new, but some of you have gotten the misconception that I am one, and let's argue about it a little bit. I don't know, but seriously, if you guys have something that we love the emails and we love the topics on the posts. But that's what this is about. So, and furthermore on that topic, I mean, we will come up with weekly topics for the shows. This week, obviously, being an exception, but generally we'll try to have some kind of theme. But we will bump that easily for an email or another topic that we feel is just more interesting. And I know that there was a little bit of unhappiness from a couple people on that. That's common. I don't really know what else to say on that. That's common on a talk show, on a radio show, on anything. If they're in a conversation about something and they think it's more engaging than the main topic, it happens all the time. It gets bumped, so it doesn't get as much time as it originally was going to for the discussion. And that's, and again, that's how much we want to get what your guys' input. And of course, I'm not doing it quite as much this week, but you can definitely expect me to be plugging websites and email addresses and everything starting again next week. But I will be plugging it again at the end of the show, our email address. And yeah, we want to hear what you guys have to say about anything. And we're covering anything on record. So not Gundam, screw Gundam. We won't ever talk about. This is probably one of the few times you'll ever hear me say the word Gundam. But
And
yeah, not a fan. I am not a all things mecha fan. A lot of people are, not me though. But yeah, you want to talk about it? Yeah, great. And we hope that we bring up topics that people find interesting. And I think not to pat ourselves on the back, but I think that is something that we've done, is that we've for the most part we've had topics that people are fairly interested in.
But the good thing in that is it shows that the ground we still have to cover with that too. I've seen it pop up a few places. I think from Zeno's Paradox, especially about retro, legacy topics. Obviously that's something that we have a comfort zone with because this was an area that we played thoroughly. But yeah, we have those kind of things being thrown about, but we don't always get the specifics on those. So if there's something you would love to hear about, right, or maybe something that you never went into in depth very far, or you just wanted to know more about, hey, by all means, feel free to mention that. Send us in a comment, send us an email. We'd love to hash it out.
We've got a million different ideas for especially in the earlier days of Armored Core, topics that we can touch. It takes us no longer than a few seconds to start rolling, and next thing we know, we have a dozen topics on that stuff. So those will happen, and I know that a lot of people have asked to talk about that. I don't know if you're going to see it so much here in the next coming months. I mean, obviously, Verdict Day is coming out. We have a couple planned things that we want to do before that comes out, and I think, and rightfully so, Verdict Day will dominate the topics shortly after it's been out. With the game, parts, controversies, and just some elements of the gameplay and events that people will be putting on for it. So that'll probably dominate it for the foreseeable future. But I'm sure we'll make an effort to throw in a retro topic every now and then during that time. And I mean, there's all the time in the world to talk about these things. So. If there's one thing Armored Core is not lacking, it's a rich history.
It is, and some of these things don't get a chance to be covered, or they're just lost deep in some forum archive. A good example is, kind of what we're covering now. Yes, we're in the end of AC5, coming out of that, but we're, still able to pitch some topics that aren't quite in the role of AC5, right? That might be about different subjects. So, we want to. It's a kind of tenuous line, and we're balancing here. We want to keep fresh. We want to present current content, and especially keep up with the current title. Verdict Day, and to plug what we need to there, and reach relevant points, both in our gameplay and with events that are happening. But by all means, keeping the scope of Armored Core as a whole.
You just inspired me on a question.
Yeah.
That right there. And I know we're not running with any platform here, but we kind of talked about a couple things that we wanted to bring up, and we'll bring them up. But you just inspired me.
Go for it.
When it's all said and done, you can look at every version of Armored Core, every game that came out for it, and you can think of some highlights of each one. When it's all said and done, and time has come and gone, what do you think will be the highlights and the lowlights of Armored Core 5?
Wow. I mean, there's a lot of subject matter to traverse in that, and that's another one of these issues I think we aren't all going to see equally on. From where we experienced, I think some of us draw this from when we started playing it.
Now, and on the topic, I just want to interrupt you. No, we're not all going to see the same on that, but that's why, we're going to talk about how we feel about that, and then we want people to email.
Exactly. Where is AC, going to fall in the overall legacy, in the history of AC? What a question to cover. For me, I know I started forming a lot of these bases from when the JP version of AC5 hit. I pre-ordered that. Got in on a ground level with it to really try to get in with the mechanics and understand. I wasn't there for the beta, okay, but that was a good testing season to kind of give a springboard into what we'd see in the NA version when it hit. All right, I personally really like the turn that they started to go with 5 as opposed to where we had been in the series. One thing from Unplugged a lot was, returning to the roots, and obviously you're not going to see Armored Core 1, the reprint, but you're going to see elements at least that brought us back, in that regard. I think that's a good thing. I also think that that's something that is going to stick with AC5, that in terms of its legacy, that it's that return, okay, that backpedal, if you will, to roots.
I don't agree with the term backpedal. I think that's it's more of a negative connotation. So
fair enough, but you have this return to roots, okay?
Yeah.
This idea of going backwards in time to at least some of the elements that we saw present in AC1, especially using more terrain, more cover. You have smaller ACs and things like that. So you can highlight that as point one, return to nostalgia. I think a second thing that AC5 is going to be remembered is probably one of the most ambitious online ACs we've had. Some of these are aesthetic. You know, I know some of these are just aesthetic, but real quick, I want to, Tearsin, what are you thinking on that? You sound like you're about to say something on it.
No, I agreed. I probably hit my push.
Oh,
yeah. So, and I think ambitious is a good word for it. There was definitely a feel, whether it was legitimate or not. There was definitely a feel of trying to make up for the past and crappy online play. Again, it felt like that. I don't think it really was like that. Overall, solid online play, except for what we've discussed in the past.
Conquest system.
Conquest, and again, very ambitious in going in the team route. In a game like this, I mean, you can go team routes in first-person shooters and such that don't have this kind of depth to it. Again, I think the word you use, ambitious, is perfect. But Conquest, I definitely think that AC5 will be remembered for Conquest.
Yeah.
And I don't think it'll be remembered favorably for it.
Yeah, and again, this gets tied back into the online model, what you had and what came out for this and what was presented. It's almost like From was taking a direct stab at something that all the communities had constantly brought up, about the online, and they said, well, okay, let's do an AC that's literally focused around that. Like, that's the model. I don't know if that's a proof thing. I don't know if it's necessarily more of an experiment. We don't work at From. Who knows the inner gears of that, but nonetheless, you cannot separate Armored Core 5 from the online experience. It's a game that is based around the online experience, especially for something as critical as territory battles, and then what we've always had in AC, the versus, right? I mean, free battle royale, team, 1 versus 1, leaderboards, rankings. You want to see what this game looks like when you take away the online from it. Log in, don't log into your PSN, just go to cancel and start up without it. That's Armored Core 5 without online, and you have that kind of picture painted. Logging in, you just see a couple of MOH territories and some your story missions to go through, and your extras in your garage, and that's about it. I think that makes a big a statement as it needs to make. So,
correct me if I'm wrong, because I am missing a gap in Armored Core history when it comes to the wonderful Armored Core 4 and 4 Answer. I believe over weapons were brand new with Armored Core 5, and if they
Yes.
were not, okay, they were, then I mean, I think that is something that people will remember fondly about Armored Core 5 was this new type of weapon.
For sure. Now we're talking about some of the specific parts and things that came out of it. One thing we always look forward to in a new AC, especially when we see a new number, obviously that's going to be a mechanics change, right? But hopefully a new part type or a new function for something. With Armored Core 2, the advent of Overboost, Armored Core 3, the advent of EO. Each time you look back, you can really trace something that came out of one of these generations. Some stuck, okay, some didn't. A lot of elements, did not, but there's things we still have today in different forms. OB, obviously, it has Glide Boost has a homage to that. They're not called the same thing. But when we talk about these specific parts, especially the over weapons, the ability to turn the tide and truly set you in the mindset of a one shot, one kill, go all out weapon. That's something that's really specific to five and local to that, and it's interesting to see how that reacted with the overall mechanics. I think it's easy to kind of recoil when you hear about one shot capability. That's going to be so imba. Why would you put something like that in? But no, it's the way it was done. I've seen much cheesier ways of one shotters being implemented, and I actually respect the way it was done in five. I had fun with it, frankly.
No, it was cool. I always enjoyed it. I always saw them kind of as a gimmick, but I don't know if I don't know if that's wrong in thinking that they're a gimmick. And I don't know. For me personally, just in my personal perspective, because I don't think this will be the majority that see this. I will, looking back in Armored Core, I'm almost positive that I will look at the first Armored Core that took away a lot of the part areas that you had in the past.
And that I think that ties right into an earlier point about the nostalgic feel. When we began the AC series, when we started, okay, we didn't have a previous reference point in the series to compare it to. This was number one. It was a start. But now that we look back, at AC5, and as we're going forward in a verdict day, and you kind of see this, return to some of the bare bones, if you will. We've lost some of the bells and whistles, like extensions and optional parts. Heck, even stabilizers. Those were only around for four. A lot of these things yeah, a ton of these things that are just slowly built up that aren't present. We're really down to the essentials. Your left arm, your right arm. Hangers. Back cannons don't even function the way they did. And missile packs, the way we always used to doing back equips. The conventional way of how you build an AC. Has been brought into a completely different style of questioning here. So.
No, I definitely, besides Conquest, I think my biggest disappointment with AC5 is the lack of the ones you specifically mentioned, optional parts and extensions. I was very sad, Panda.
Yeah.
I remember particularly, it's like looking through, them, like, what really these? Where are they? What?
Yeah. I know missile boat fans wept. We have a couple of people who love to run missile designs. I know a good friend of mine, Dragonis. He loves to make his missile boats, whether it was on a hover or a tank or any other platform. But coming into five, he was kind of perplexed, like where are my back mounts? Where are my missiles for that? And here's the irony, right? We always talked about that intro to AC3 where we had the shoulder missiles mounted. It's like, oh my god, I want to do that, and we get that in a way, but not in the way you expect. I guess we always imagined being able to fire a full complement of missiles, both from inside and back. But it's funny how we see some of those things implemented, and yeah, you want to trace that directly to missiles, for five, with the exception of sentries, or some other outlandish options like that. The missile parts are in the shoulders. I mean, it's limited to inside. People are used to throwing on a back multi-warhead launcher, or the TM missiles or the high ACTs or what have you, but that option isn't here.
I don't know, the future, and I definitely think that From Software definitely showed that they are willing to completely switch it up from one console to the next. But I think we can all safely bet that there will be an Armored Core 6 on the PS4 and possibly the Xbox One. We will get new versions. I really do hope that they bring back the big kick-ass back weapons. It was really a signature Armored Core thing. I don't mind how the current system is with the weapons machine and all. I kind of like it. I think it's very interesting. But I do hope to see big grenade launchers on the back, giant twin back missile launchers. Those were just so cool. They were just so cool.
They were as long as you don't bring back the some of the AC2 missile lag with it. I'm thinking of
Yeah.
those dual back warheads with extensions, specifically. But you're right. It's some of these larger than life, massively powerful mounts that always added a real element of surprise and fun to the series. Whether you're breaking out the Lick 10 to thunder across with a huge laser shot, or you have a GNL or what have you, they were always iconic, especially the GNL. I mean, it's really difficult to separate a weapon like that from the iconic AC villain 9-ball. I mean, from the very get-go, we've had this weapon connected to a real AC historic figure, and it's been odd, seeing that gone. But you know what? Hey, the light classes they're still there. They've adapted in different ways now. You have a more team-based model, and it's to be questioned. From will show us, whether we evolve from here and run with this model, for team and online, and take it into a whole new territory with AC6, or if it'll return to some other type of form. But that's obviously something to look at another point.
I agree, but honestly, listening to you on there, you got me missing. You got me really missing back in the previous games when somebody would have a grenade launcher and it would scare the crap out of you. If you saw it and you knew they had one, you'd be a little leery at first. Then you would know after a couple shots, is this something I need to be scared of, or does this guy have no idea how to use this weapon? And of course, depending on that, all depended on how you reacted the whole match because of that one weapon. If they were good with their grenade launcher, that shaped the whole fight for you. But if they sucked at it, I mean that was just like that's just asking to get your ass kicked. At that point, you just go in for the kill.
It's reminding me too.
And I miss that.
For sure, for sure. I know we're kind of loose within this discussion there, but that's something that is something to be missed, and it also makes me wonder if we do end up revisiting back mounts, okay, or especially even cannons or GNL, if we'll have the type of reactive physics to them that we saw in one or some of the later titles, and by that I mean some of the radical explosive forces. Okay, you remember back in Project Phantasma and like MOA, when a GNL round went off, it had a lot of kick to it. And it had like such a high, not just recoil, but impact that the explosion would catch you too, to a degree. It's not going to blow off 3,000 or anything, but you're going to feel it. And in later games, that effect was diminished a bit, as we went into AC3 and some of the others. So it'll be interesting. A missed shot, would you severely pay for that or not? Or how would those interact with the environment? There's tons they can do with it, and that's going to be completely up to the system and how they address that, especially within
Always.
5.
I'm sorry.
No. I was just saying, especially within 5, with the way we have hangers.
It always kind of scared me, honestly. And Gimpy was, and this is the person who I played with the most through the game. He was known as Gimpy online, but he was not online. He wasn't online a lot, but I mean, he was scary good with those GNL. And to this day, I can just think about I remember that noise, just noise, freaking shot, and then hitting the wall, and hitting me, and it's just like, oh,
Hey,
to this day.
let me guess. There was probably a bit of a silence before it happened, right? There's usually always a silence before a good GNL round cuts the air.
Oh, especially when you know they have one and you know they're good at it. There's always silence.
But I'll tell you what, it makes me wonder if we'll see those little glitches pop up again, like with the deeks that we used to have during the AC3 series, being able to deke a GNL round, things like that. It was those little quirks like that actually got some players around certain weapons, and that was really interesting.
Oh, decoys. See, now we're just going way back. We'll have too much fun.
Yeah,
I love decoys. Where the hell are my decoys?
We have, in 5, we have them sort of implemented in different terms. If someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the CIWS, and we have this electrical field that goes over your AC to help disrupt and break locks. And then
That thing is gay. It's
from shoulders, yeah. I mean, and then I think for arms, yeah, you had your recon jammer. That's a completely different story. But yeah, I look at some of the missile intercept technologies now, what we have now compared to then, and again, it's pointing back to this kind of bare bone step that AC5 is going. It almost feels like armored cores are these very these kind of in antiquity, right? These kind of rusted, ancient technologies that just been recently rediscovered and we're just starting to really get off the ground again. And I don't know if we're going to see a radical jump in Verdict Day and some of the options we'll be able to use, or just have some more creative ways to deal with things. But there's definitely a lot missing from these cores, down to not having a radar. And a lot to be said for that.
Where's my bazookas?
Zooks.
Where are they?
Some people probably argue with you and say, "Look, there they are. You got the howitzer. You got your
Oh,
howitzer cannon."
that's not a bazooka. No one better say that's a bazooka. There's a distinctive difference.
Oh man, and then
There's something to be said for the battle rifles kind of being the bazookas, but even they're not really.
Right. The idea of a heat round of some sort, and then you have the cannon, the normal cannon itself, but they're not the Zooks. Zooks were Zooks. They were their own category.
I loved them. I didn't use them a lot myself, but you'd always see at least a couple people that swore by them, and they were always just kind of cool. If you could make a bazooka work well, I mean, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, there were some we had pop up at different points, like real standouts, like the BP, especially during Ninebreaker season. The BP made a lot of Zook believers out of people who were not previously Zook believers. So I mean, heck, I know I even mounted a BP on a design or so, but that stands for a lot of parts. I think you can have your exceptions.
Howitzer being a bazooka.
You never know. Hey, you never know.
I have a love-hate relationship with the howitzer of old because it was just the coolest thing for me that I could finally not use a blade. I had another option besides a shield. Okay, shields were neat. Okay, that's not a weapon though. But and then we got the howitzer.
Yep.
And that was awesome. But all right, cool. I've got a weapon in my left hand. That's awesome. But then it sucked. But that's all right because it did suck.
I don't know. I had fun with those. I had a lot of fun.
I learned to use it really well because it was like one of what was your wasn't there just was it just the howitzer at first? It was so long ago.
Well, you had, like you said, you had your hand howitzer, right? You also had your back mounted howitzer too. And I think what a lot of people liked about these was, okay, it's a similar idea to a rocket. They're not a rocket, obviously, but
Right.
They have a firing arc. They're a manual weapon. They're low weight, they're low energy drain, and they give you a lot of ammo capacity. So it's one of those weapons that says, hey, if you want to take this venture, if you think you got the skills to pull it off and you can curve these shots right, use me. Go for it. But, not having that secondary weapon, with the lock, really, it was one of those weapons that was left open to interpretation. I can definitely see how it, did not fit a lot of people's playstyles, so...
Yeah, and I'm not talking about the back ones. I am talking about the left-handed.
Right.
Howitzer. It took a little while, but I got pretty decent with them. And then I think it was you're gonna have to help me on this because I'm old.
Yep.
Was it Silent Line that really it was Silent Line that really introduced a lot of left-handed weapons? That was just 3 that came with the howitzer, wasn't it?
I believe so. One thing that SL did too was it really branched out, and some people complained about this, on the quote-unquote copies of weapons. People were frustrated that you had a weapon that was basically recolored and given slightly different stats. Some of that was responsible for filling out, some of the weapon lineup that we had present in SL. But no, that really did start to get expanded finally. To have different left arm weapons, especially having another left arm rifle for support. Mayhem 44 was a big user of the dual rifle and whatnot, and having a good backup along to his complement. I play him, and I'd always see that quintessential mid-weight biped with the mix up.
Mayhem 44, dude. I was all about the double rifle.
You too. It was I don't. Here's the terrible
I'm the
thing.
vicious motherfucker with double rifle. What are you talking?
And that's the funny part because you and I actually did not get a chance to play in an event till ACMM4, I believe. And Mayhem, I actually played. I never forget this guy because he was the very first opponent I ever played at a tournament. ACMM2, he was my first matchup.
Oh yeah.
And yep, that's what he was running. That's just why that tends to kind of stick out in my mind.
I know you and I have talked about a couple of classic matches we had. The one in particular where I chased you around forever was first.
Yeah, that car chase scene. And after throwing my partner in a ditch. Thanks.
Oh, was that the same match when we destroyed Cubbear?
Yeah, it was.
That was so great.
It was the same match, but that led to a lot of fun, So, jumping back, it'll be interesting to see where some of these things evolve. How weapons are going to be used and perceived in the future, and how we're going to use them in tandem or not in tandem. I know I'm looking forward to more categories.
I don't want to look past that real quick.
No, go
Remind
ahead.
me, literally, how many seconds did Cub Bear actually survive?
You're doing this. You're doing this, aren't you?
I mean, seriously, was it? It
All
was
right.
it, literally. I don't even think I got into double digits. We just we're talking about it. We're talking about a team event where it was Gimpy and myself as a team taking on Zealous and Cub Bear. I know most of you guys aren't going to remember half those names. That's all right. The point of it is, I mean, our Gimpy's my main strategy when in this team event was, we focus on one guy first, take him down right away, and it was like I said, you and Cub Bear, and the match started, and I don't even think obliterate is the appropriate word for what we did to him.
It, all I remember was the match started, and I look away and I focus, and he kind of knew where we were going with the game plan. And then whatever he did, something absolutely savage happened, and I turn and he's at 0 AP. I mean, it was that quick, almost like a blink. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm going to be facing down two complete loadouts now with the. Yeah, it was. That was rough.
I don't even think anyone else had taken any damage yet.
That was the worst part. So, hey, more cause for those vids. If you had that one recorded, I'd love to trace back on it. Maybe you could
Well,
take some amnesia out.
more call for a team event. We've had some, we've had exhibitions and we've had tournaments. Let's get a team event going. Let's get a team tournament going. That just be fun. And that is a perfect segue into what I'm about to announce. We are the first people to announce this. I'm sure you'll start seeing it on forums and websites tomorrow, but we've got it first. September 14th, Armored Core 5 Exhibition Event 2. Hosted again by Fromcheng and presented to you by Armored Core Legacy. And yeah, I know. Voice in there too. No, but yeah, this is happening September 14th for both PS3 and Xbox 360, and for both the NA region and the European region. So he is a busy man that weekend. I don't know how he's going to pull all that off.
Somehow he does.
But he does do it. So, yeah, Exhibition 2. He wants to see if we can get one more going, and I think that's a great idea. I'm excited for it, and I hope we see even more people. We had a blast at the last one.
We did, the people we got to connect with and really launch, and I tie that event, with the launching of Raven's Voice as well. It was just a really, really cool start. Some familiar faces, a lot of unfamiliar faces, but yeah, people were geared not only for the event, but that, there would be more upcoming ways of presenting Armored Core and ways, people could kind of interact with some things in the community. So, for sure, plenty of hype here.
I'm really looking forward to this. There will be duels, there will be team battles and battle royals again. I did ask him if he had any plans on possibly, taking a bunch of the people and maybe putting together some kind of tournament. He does not, which is fine because I think, you don't have to do that every time. And, sometimes you just have an event like this. I remember you and we spent most of the day playing together and with a lot of the same people. We spent the bulk of the day with a lot of the same people just doing matches. It really was a lot of fun.
It was. And between those matches too, not just the different types, we got to do from, team to battle royale, to everything else, and trying to just keep the rooms varied. That was a thing too. We had to recreate a few times to make sure, we could keep, getting people in, or people had trouble getting invites. But yeah, there were a lot of faces that day. That some others that I've still talked with, on and off, that we got a chance to meet, and I would not have seen if it had not been for that exhibition. So if it's your first time playing AC5 in a while, hey, whatever, come out and enjoy it. A sweet thing that you see in this is all kinds of different designs, pulled out.
We should do that again. We should have a Raven's Voice room again, and just keep that going for a while.
Yeah, we just had rooms open. They were hosted. There were a lot of people that are having trouble getting in Sheng's rooms, and we had some for the podcast room. People came in, and once they caught on what that was about, and they just had a lot of fun. And plenty of variants. We had people switching around all day, from over weapon kickers, to like your mids to, you name it. So by all means, hey, come on out and just play and just enjoy it, for what it is.
Yeah, yeah, come on over, beat the shit out of my AC.
Oh man, get some. Oh, but all right, let's think on that note we can start to close things and wrap up for this podcast. We just had some plugs to make here, and Tearsin, I'm sure you're going to cover anything I forget, because I probably will forget.
Always with the
The first event that comes to mind here is the Griffin versus Deemer music video contest. Now, I talked about this last podcast, and we've talked about it in many of the other podcasts beforehand. But again, these still aren't out. Watch for it. These are a thread to this is posted on almost every major AC outlet. Something really keep an eye on if you've never seen an AC AMV, or if you've never seen the competition, whatever reason, check this out. It should be a lot of fun, and we haven't seen this in a really long time. Again, feedback, questions, comments, anything in between, please email us at RavensVoiceACL@gmail.com, or you can also go post on the forums at Armored Core Legacy in the ACL media section. There will be a link provided to this specific podcast if you guys want to speak in that thread. That's all I got.
That's all you. That's it.
That's all I
God,
got. That's all I got. I know there's tons, but this is why you're here. This is why you're here.
So many more. Okay, let's see where to start. Next week, we talked about it a couple weeks ago. Next week, we will have our trivia ready. We're going to ask some insanely difficult questions about Armored Core, and we're going to want you guys to enter in. We'll have how long you have to answer, but probably the first person to get them all right will win, and will win a copy of Armored Core Verdict Day from the Ravens Voice. So that we will get those out next week. We will probably give some kind of specific time as to when the show will be out with that, just to make sure it's fair for everyone. But yeah, so that is next week. Now, as well as Armored Core Verdict Day giveaways, Armored Core Legacy is still, you still have about, 9 more days? Yeah, that ends September 1st to get registered on ArmoredCoreLegacy.com. You registered on the forums and get to posting. I looked today, and considering all the many members that we've gotten, which is really awesome, by the way. I love how so many people have embraced going over those forums. But out of all the people that have, I was actually kind of shocked that only a few dozen people at the very most are eligible to win a copy of Verdict Day. All you got to do is go over there and just talk. Just post on the forums, talk about stuff. It's a low number to hit, but not a lot of people have hit it yet. So you've got 9 more days to do it. That should end September 1st when Cheng will pick randomly the winner. Everyone, and again, to be eligible, you just have to post a certain amount of times. And no, we're not going to tell you. So that kind of defeats the whole point. So, but yeah, so you get about 9 more days for that. Let's see, you did give the email address, but I'm going to repeat that just because I want to.
Hit it.
RavensVoiceACL@gmail.com. Yeah, we talked about the exhibition event coming up. You're going to see. Things have been a little slow on getting some of the stuff out, some of the actual content rolled out for the ACL website, as well as the Ravens Voice website and all that. But in a couple more weeks, you should start seeing a lot of that stuff roll out. We've got a lot of really cool ideas, especially over at ACL. Zealous and I, we are content developers over there. So it's a labor of love for us, though. We don't get paid for it or anything, so we work on it when we can. But we have a lot of really cool ideas. One in particular I really think a lot of people are going to like. That should start coming out soon. Besides that, I do think that is it.
That'll do it. That'll do it, folks. So again, thank you for listening. Stay tuned and stay peeled for what we'll have coming down the pike in next week. And we will catch you soon. Same place, same spot.
Have a good night. See you guys next week.